Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anjali Karol Mohan. I am an urban and regional planner by profession, and I work on issues of public policy, governance, organization, and institutional frameworks. I am here today. I have been asked to speak on the recently notified draft master plan for Bangalore. I have been, as many of you may know, that I've been a part of the master planning team, but I will be actually speaking in my capacity today, not as a team member, but more as a person, first as a professional who has worked not just on this master plan, but I have worked on the previous master plan, and I have also worked on the two regional or structure plans for the Bangalore metropolitan region, the one which was notified in 2011 and the recently 2031. The latter having implications for the current master plan, that is the RMP 2031. I'm also going to speak in my capacity as a citizen of Bangalore. So that's as far as my introduction is concerned. Coming to the topic for today, for which I have been asked to speak on and agreed to speak on, I'm going to talk about the relationship between the regional plan, many of you know it as the Revised Structure Plan 2031, and the master plan, the recently, which has been a lot in the news, that is the Revised Master Plan 2031. The acronyms can be a little confusing, so what I'm going to refer to is the RSP 2031 or Regional Plan 2031 and Master Plan 2031. Now, what I will do now in the next half an hour is I will first speak on the relevance of a regional plan. Why do we need to look at the city in context of its region? I will then go and speak on, contextualize it to Bangalore and speak about what is really happening in the city of Bangalore and its city region. And then I will pick up some of the things from the regional plan and discuss it in context of the master plan and vice versa. Okay, now to start off with, I think before we try and understand the relationship between the regional plan and the master plan, let us try and understand the relationship between the city and its region. And I have said that in a recent interview also, the regional plan, the city has a very symbiotic relationship with its region. So if we were to look at Bangalore, Bangalore has a very symbiotic relationship with its larger region, right? And when I say symbiotic relationship, what I mean is that they are interdependent. Bangalore city is as much a part of its region. It draws from the region while also contributing to the growth of the region. Similarly, the region is actually contributing to the growth of Bangalore city while also drawing from it for its own existence. Now, if this understanding is clear, then we also know that whatever planning happens at these two scales, they should be in sync, they should be in cognizance, and they should not be totally contradicting each other, right? So therefore, in some senses, if you begin to understand, the city is a part of a larger region. So in the case of Bangalore, we often say Bangalore is a donut, but if you look at the larger region, you will realize that the Bangalore metropolitan area is the core of the larger region, and I'll get into this a little later and explain to you what it means. Now, why do we need to look at a city-region framework? We need to look at a city-region framework essentially because the region, there are several, one is that there are several infrastructures that are regional in character. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. These are regional in character. Let us take, for example, transport. Let us take water supply. Now, these are very much regional in character. You cannot deal with them at the city level. So therefore, it is critical that you start to look at them in at the regional scale. What is even more critical, but very less spoken about, is the fact that several of the environmental features, several of the natural resources that we talk about, these really don't know the administrative boundaries. Right? So a groundwater table does not know where the metropolis boundary starts, the BDA boundary starts and the BMRDA boundary starts. A groundwater table is the same irrespective of the administrative boundaries. So therefore, to be able to look at some of the natural resources or the environmental features on which a city is highly dependent, and which feeds the city, we must go and look at a regional approach. And this is not very highly spoken about, but is becoming more and more critical in planning because of the fact that cities are becoming more and more vulnerable, and we need to constantly look at the resilience of cities. So this is why it is important to look at the city region rather than to look at the region, at the city. Okay, now let us move to the whole, let us contextualize it to Bangalore and try and understand what is happening in Bangalore. In Bangalore, we have three concentric rings. One is the innermost ring, which is called the BBMP, which many of you will know, and that is the 800 square kilometers, odd square kilometers that we talk about. Then we have what we call the Bangalore Metropolitan Area, which is the jurisdiction of the BDA. That is 1200 odd, close to 1300 square kilometers. And this is the area for which the master plan is being prepared. Over and above that, which is very less known, or is relatively less known, I should say, is the Bangalore Metropolitan Region. This is the jurisdiction of the Bangalore Metropolitan Regional Development Authority, or the BMRDA. And this is approximately 8,000 odd square kilometers. It consists of Bangalore Rural, Bangalore Urban, and Ramanagara and Channapatna districts. These are the administrative boundaries. So these are the three layers that we are talking about. However, planning is happening at this point in time at two scales. One is the BMRDA level, that is the regional plan, and we are lucky that in Bangalore we have an identified city region and there is a plan being prepared for it, or there is a plan that exists for it. And then we have, and the second plan is what we are currently discussing, that is the master plan, which is done for the Bangalore metropolitan area, which is the 1200 odd square kilometers. Now, what is the next question? So now we have these two plans. The next question is, what is the relationship between the regional plan and the what is the nature of the regional plan and what is the nature of the master plan? A regional plan, given the scale, is largely a policy framework. So what it does is it lays out a framework within which the lower level plans are supposed to be prepared. So it is in the hierarchy of planning, it is the highest level of planning. Then after that comes the Bangalore Metropolitan Area Plan, or the BDA plan. So for the BDA plan, the regional plan is actually the policy framework, and the BDA plan should be embedded. The master plan ideally should be embedded within this larger regional framework. So to reiterate, the regional plan is a policy framework. What does it allow us to do? It actually allows us to move from a sectoral approach to a territorial approach. That's the first thing. Secondly, what it allows us, as I said, it allows us to embed a lot of regional infrastructures. What it also allows us to do is to plan and govern at a larger level and understand the footprint of the city. Now, this is what our regional plan has laid out, and we already have that for the year 2031. Now, the next level of planning is your master plan, and this master plan should use the regional plan framework as its guidance. And that is, it should be within the larger understanding of the regional plan, the master plan. Now, let me highlight a few of the positives that we are currently having in the state of Karnataka. As I said, number one, there are not many cities or many metropolitan areas which have an identified region. I think in the case of Bangalore, we are very lucky to have a region which is already identified. A regional act, the BMRDA Act, which if you ask me is a very, very strong act and has a lot of positives to it, and a plan called the Regional Structure Plan. One of the positive things that has happened currently, and for want of a better word, I think I would like to say that we are really in some senses at a historic moment right now, at least from a planner's perspective, because the timelines for the first time in the history of Bangalore, the timelines for the regional plan and the master plan are coinciding. And why is it historic? It is historic because it allows us as planners, as citizens, to actually coincide these plans, to actually make sure that the plans are comprehensive, they are talking to each other, they are embedding, because we are looking at the same timelines. In the past, what has happened is that the timelines have been very different. So the first structure plan was for 2011, whereas the master plan was for 2015. Then the structure plan was revised for 2031, but the master plan continued to be for 2015. Now, actually the master plan was to be revised for the year 2025. But the government has been very wise, the state of Karnataka, where they've actually said that they will push the master plan period to coincide with the regional plan period, so that the two plans can coincide, they can be comprehensive, they can be cognizant, and not really working in, not really contradictory or working in different directions, which has happened in the previous plans. The strategy of the structure plan and the for 2011 and master plan were actually contradictory. So to some extent, this is the first plus point that we have right now, as far as the regional plan is concerned. The second the second plus point that we have is that the regional plan actually was prepared a lot in advance of the master plan. So the regional plan was almost 5 or 7 years before preparation happened, before the master plan. So in some senses, the master plan does have a comprehensive framework within which it can evolve its various strategies, its various directions, its various mandates, and how it will be, and actually outline how it can be in cognizance of the regional plan. So that to me is a huge plus point. And I think that is something that this master plan had as an advantage, or has as an advantage. So that is the two positives that I would like to focus on. Okay. Now, I think the next question that assumes significance is whether, what is the relevance of the, I've already spoken on the relevance of the regional plan for the master plan. I think the next question to me, what would really emerge important is, to what extent are the stipulations of the regional plan binding on the master plan? Yeah. So, as I said earlier, yes, clearly the regional plan offers a framework for the functioning of the master plan, or the evolution of the master plan. Having said that, the regional plan is a higher level plan, the master plan is a lower level plan, simply looking at their jurisdictions. Now, while the master plan should use the framework of the regional plan, what is also important to understand is that these plans, this whole planning process should be iterative. Yeah. So it is not that once the regional plan lays out its policy frameworks and everything, it is etched in stone. No, that's not the case. It is, these two plans are iterative, can be iterative, and there is an advantage in making these plans iterative. So let me explain to you why there is an advantage in this iteration. This advantage, if we are making these plans iterative or keep an iterative planning process in mind, then you are actually engaging in a planning process which is very dynamic, right? So many a times we hear that the master plan is very static, it doesn't respond to ground realities, the ground is changing so fast, but the master plan is not able to keep up with those changes on the ground. Making planning an iterative process, when I say iterative, what I mean is that you are constantly changing, or what should I say, making the plan malleable, being able to bring in quick changes in the plan to accommodate some of the unforeseen circumstances, unforeseen changes that are happening on the ground. It is not possible to foresee everything. So therefore, it is it's important that iteration is brought in to accommodate some of these changes. Now, so one advantage is that it becomes dynamic. The second advantage is that what it implies is that your whatever is there in the regional plan is not really etched in stone. It can be changed. So let me take an example and explain this to you. Within the master plan process, as many of you may already know, there has been a lot of angst, if I may say, on the population projections that have happened. We have in the year 20 current, I mean, more or less, to put it simply, the populations have doubled, are likely to be doubled by the year 2031. So if we are now at 10 to 11 million, what the master plan says is that by the year 2031, it will be 20 million. Now there is a lot of angst, and rightly so. Many people say that how can Bangalore accommodate this kind of growth and these numbers? There are queries or doubts where people say that as it is, the city is choking, and now as planners, you're saying that the numbers are going to be doubled. How can we accommodate? There are other queries which are saying that water is a huge constraint, as we all know it. And in a recent conference, we heard that Bangalore, I mean, the water condition that we have in Bangalore cannot hold more numbers than what is already there. So there are various reasons or premises on which this whole population projections are being questioned. This is not to say that the master plan is right in its population projections or wrong in its population projections. I think we need a very nuanced understanding. There have also been questions that have been raised on the growth rates. So they said there is a particular historical trend, and this particular master plan seems to have diverged from that trend. And rightly so, there must be a rationale. There is a rationale for that. I think it's important to understand that rationale, but I will not get into those details. Now, the master plan, I'll get back to the relationship between the master plan and the regional plan and how the regional plan is not etched in stone. The master plan says that the population projection is 20 million. But if you look at the regional plan, and this was brought out in a recent public meeting or a conference that I was attending, where I think it was brought out that the regional plan is actually projecting the population to about roughly 17.5 to 20 million. That is for the larger 8,000 square kilometers. Whereas the master plan is saying this is going to be 20 million for just that 1,300 square kilometers. Now, what we need to understand, without getting into what is wrong, what is right, because that requires a very nuanced understanding and a lot of understanding of what is the rationale for both the plans to project what they are projecting. Now, without getting into what is right, what is wrong, the point I'm trying to make here is that the regional plan was prepared in a certain time period. It was prepared, if I'm not mistaken, in the year 2005 onwards, right? Now, at that time, the BMRDA felt that the trends were such that BMRDA felt that this is what is going to be the population in the region. Having said that, please keep in mind that though the regional plan says that 18 million is the population, it also says that 75 to 80% of that population will be in the Bangalore metropolis area. That is the BDA area. So if you are to take 80% of 18 million, it's about, if you divide it by 4, it's about 80% of 18 million. It's about 16 million is going to be in the Bangalore metropolitan area. So, but this plan says 20 million. Now, that was done in the year 2005, 2007, and this plan has been prepared in the year currently, now where we are, 2017, 2015, 2017. There is a gap of 10 years. In a rapidly urbanizing geography like the Bangalore metropolitan area, anything can change. We know cities are changing on a daily basis. There may be things which have brought about these changes. There may be other circumstances which have brought about. So therefore, at this point, the BDA has said that this is the 20 million is going to be the population. There must be a rationale. There is a rationale for that. It is important to understand what both the plans are saying, and I think it is important for governments to, for the BDA and the BMRDA to understand this, and then say, okay, maybe brainstorm it in a larger circle, maybe understand what are the reasons behind all this, and then arrive at the right number to say whether it is the master plan, which is more or less near what is likely to happen in 2031, or it is a structure plan. And accordingly, the two plans can be changed. So the point that I'm trying to drive here is that it is not that the provisions of the structure plan are etched in stone. And as of now, because the master plan is in the draft stage, it is not that the provisions of the master plan are etched in stone, and they should not be. There should be a mechanism where both these plans can be constantly talking to each other. The process can be made iterative, and these plans can be changed accordingly. And I think that is extremely critical. As I said, that we are at a moment where both these plans are for the same period, and we already have a policy framework within which the master plan can be prepared. Unfortunately, the time gap between the preparation of the two plans has been a little more than what is desirable. So if the regional plan was, say, notified in the year, I think it was notified very recently, as the final approval was given very recently. But ideally what should have happened is that when the regional plan was notified in the draft stage, and final approval should have happened quickly, and the master plan should have started, the preparation of the master plan process should have started also. That way the two plans can be very much in sync, and they can be also not too far apart in whatever they are saying. But having said that, we don't live in an ideal world. There is things don't happen the way we want them to happen, and there are reasons, right and wrong, for that. What I'm trying to say over here is that it is possible and it is desirable to make these planning processes dynamic and these planning processes iterative. So that is the implication that the regional plan has on the master plan. And to that extent, I think the master plan has to necessarily look at the framework of the regional plan and say that this is what the regional plan is saying, and within this framework, this is what we are taking it. This is how we are taking it forward. And wherever the master plan finds a problem with the what the regional plan has said about, I think it will come out and say that. And then the regional plan can go back and those changes can be made. So that's one. Secondly, I think what we also need to understand is that the nature of the regional plan and the master plan is very different. As I said, the regional plan is very policy oriented, and to some extent its approach is territorial rather than sectoral. The master plan is a land use plan. Its approach then by extension is very sectoral. So we are saying that the residential area, we zone the land as per its uses and as per the sectors that we have. So we'll say this is where the residential area comes, this is where the commercial areas come, and that's as per the Act, the Karnataka Town and Country Planning Act, that's the definition of the master plan. This is not to say that I agree with the master plan definition. Of course, that many of us know it needs an overhaul. But so far, at this point in time, as the Act is defining, we are looking at the master plan within that legal framework, and that plan has been prepared accordingly. The master plan, therefore, is very sectoral in its nature. It is both are premised on population projections. One is a policy framework, the other is more sectoral projections, sectoral recommendations, sectoral proposals, and should ideally be broken down into policy programs and projects for further implementation. Now, the final point that I would like to kind of bring out over here is, which I've mentioned earlier, that the master plan, what we also need to understand is just one scale of planning within a larger hierarchy. So the regional plan is the larger level plan, then comes the master plan, which is at the metropolis area. But actually, the master plan, there is also a lower level plan, which at least is mentioned in the Constitution, which is or the 74th Constitution Amendment Act, which is your ward level plan. And here while there has been a lot of angst also in the city on the whole Metropolitan Planning Committee and the MPC, what I would also like to, since I'm talking about this, what I would also like to clarify is that the role of the MPC is not to prepare the master plan. Yeah, the master plan, the role of the MPC is actually, of course, is to, if you really understand the spirit behind the MPC, it is to look at the region, larger region, and to bring up, it's more a coordination mechanism, it's more a sharing mechanism, it's more a mechanism of understanding how to coordinate between different geographies on common or regional infrastructures. So if there is a road which is passing through town A, or a town A is asking for a particular road, then how do you make that road regional in character so that several towns get served by it? So the MPC's job is essentially to coordinate between the lower level plans. However, we do not have, as of now, we don't have these these hierarchies in place, all of them. As we all know, the ward level plans or even the city level plans are not in order as of now. Therefore, the MPC probably does not have that much of a, as of now, in the current context, it cannot prepare the master plan, both legally, and even the way I understand the constitutional mandate, it's the idea of the MPC is not to prepare the master plan. The idea of the MPC is to do coordination at the regional level. The plan itself has to be prepared either at a city level or at the local planning area level, as has been done for the master plan. So I think that is another mechanism that we need to keep in mind, or another point that we need to keep in mind, that if we are talking of regional level planning, the MPC has a role to play at that level. There have been several committees. We have had, the most recent has been the BBMP restructuring committee, which has also echoed some of the recommendations of the previous, whether it is the Kasturi Rangan report or it was the Shivaramana Krishna committee report. All of them have said, and we can get into it, where the MPC should get notified, how it should get notified, what work it should do. So I think that if we are looking at a regional planning process, clearly the MPC has a role to play over there. I am not negating the role of the MPC, but I'm saying that the role is more at the regional level. So this is as far as the master plan and the regional level, regional plan or the structure plan is concerned. I think I will end with that, and that is all I have to say as far as the current master plan is concerned, and the regional plan is concerned, and the planning process thereon. Thank you very much.